Hello, everybody, and welcome. A very warm welcome if you are joining us today. My guest today is Dennis Howes. Dennis is co-founder of Membership Bespoke Recruitment Specialist. And today he has so kindly, generously gifted us his time to share his absolutely epic transformational journey that saw himself and his business partner Daniel achieve some truly astounding results in the world of recruitment. So Dennis, welcome. I am super delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Really glad to come on and have a chat.
Brilliant. So today, what you're going to hear, so stay with us for the next 20-30 minutes as we dive underneath how Dennis and Daniel soared. They moved their turnover from a 240k performance to a 2.5 million pounds with a 1 million pound profit. They've had their best months ever to an incredible 151k in 1 month. Also increased their fees, exclusivity, have built a temporary division from zero organically, and also invested in marketing and new ways of doing business so that their business now, they have a huge pot of savings, they have financial freedom, future security, and a business that is valued at 4.5 million. So Dennis, wowzers. As I said to you earlier, I don't know if this is like what topping my guests on the Hero series. So thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Now I know that you're such, an honest and what's the word, genuinely lovely person. And I know, as you were saying to me earlier, well, it wasn't always like that, Katie. So, no. If we may, could we just go back to where you were, which I think was about 2 years ago, wasn't it? And tell us a bit about what were the challenges you were facing back then.
So the business is actually 14 years old, and we've seen the rapid scale up over the last 2 years. But for 12 years, it was just Daniel and I, and it was tough, right? We had good times, we had good months, we also had really bad months, and we had a constant cycle of chasing success. But we only had a 19% fill ratio because we were working on PSLs. We were also prepared to work against other agencies. And it just meant that because we were only filling 19%, if you think about it, that was 81% of your day was bad news, right? Because you're only filling a small amount. And we weren't brave enough to ask for exclusivity. We felt we were small. We knew that there was a niche. We only worked in a niche. We look at recruitment slightly different. So instead of looking at a vertical, so just all marketing jobs or all sales or lawyers or whatever it is, we look at a sector. So we look at every department within a membership organization. But it was tough. And, on a Friday, you'd get a call, there was a rebate, £6 grand had fallen out, and your world caved in because it was like, well, how on earth am I going to, one, pick myself up, but two, can we afford this? And it was constantly, watching what bills to pay when, and it was tough. I love being my own boss. I didn't want to be back in a tough sort of cutthroat recruitment office environment. So I was steadfast on working with Daniel. My wife laughs and said, Daniel's my second work wife, because there's an immense amount of trust there. So we enjoy working together, and that was always going to be the case. But we weren't really getting anywhere. I didn't have a pension. I had no savings. I was living a decent living because I've always believed in, rewarding myself. So I was earning okay. We'd never missed a payday. That's one thing we were proud of. But there were times where there were directors' loans involved. We're having to borrow money off the business, and it was a constant cycle. Then COVID hit, and then that was the real sort of thing. Is we survived that. We went back to basics. We spent the whole of COVID staying alive because we built some money up, but we spent the whole time just giving people things for free, like doing CV clinics, talking to people, and really getting to know people, which we hadn't been before. And then when COVID started to end, we knew there'd be a bounce. And that's when, we thought, right, let's get on the Rocket program, because just a little bit of background information. I used to work with Nikki Coffin. So she used to be my boss, and I've always trusted Nikki and enjoyed working with her. So I thought, right, let's go for it. And the rest is history, to be honest. We learned a lot, and it validated a lot of the decisions we'd already made as well. And then just the metal, it's been incredible 2 years.
Amazing. So let's break it down, because like you're saying, it's incredible what you and Daniel have achieved, and now your team in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But if you can remember back to then, what was the first step or strategy or process that you implemented that sort of started that off?
Very first step, and we did this before we went on Rocket, is we looked at it and we thought, right, we are going to be exclusive only. So we are going to only work on a vacancy if it's exclusive, and we will tell the clients from the outset that that's how we work. And actually, if you do the numbers, then you're going to fill much higher percentage, so you need less jobs to earn the same money. That's basic maths. Yeah. So we did that to start with. There were lots of clients to begin with, like, oh, I don't want to do that. You know, I want to use all these different vacancies. But we stuck to our guns, and in the end, it actually became a positive part of the sales process, because it's, if you want to work with us, you work with us because we'll tell you how it works, how we'll make it work for you.
Right.
And in the end, people do respect you for it. If you allow them to dictate, you know, everything from the start, are you really an expert? Are you really as good as you say you are? Just, you know, if you're going to use it, we ask for 2 weeks, only 2 weeks exclusivity, and we'll produce a shortlist. Pace is important, speed. You know, getting the right candidates across to them, using the right technologies to get those candidates. And that really was because then we started feeling 80%. And then if 80% of your day is good, 20% is bad, it certainly becomes enjoyable again. And everyone wants to be on the winning side, don't you?
Yeah, doesn't it? We want to be on that team. And and just on that, because what you've touched on, I think so valuable for people to hear and to know is possible for them, is that you're right. When we sort of put it back on the client and allow the client to dictate the way that the sales, let's call it, because it is a sales process, isn't it? Let's not deny it. When we actually worked the client's buying process, and that's what you're saying there, that's what was happening. Then, you know, we've handed over. It's like not trial closing a candidate, isn't it? And it's you know, or when you trial close the candidate, you hand the baton over, is what I always used to say to my guys.
Devaluing your skills, and it's devaluing why they've come to you in the first place. Obviously, we work in a sector membership. It's in our name. We're the ones that have been around the longest. So really, if you want the results, then you'll work in the way that we know works. And then when you can actually then have the marketing that actually, or the materials to follow up a meeting and say, well, this is our process, this is what we'll do, and it does work, and they'll see that it works. And also just, you know, really promoting success. So just letting people know when you've done well, getting the testimonials, and not being scared to actually, you know, ask people for them too. If you've done a good job, you know, would you mind putting that in writing for me? And then just using that, and it really is, it starts small, but it will start to snowball. And then you can put your fees up as well, because you know that they work. And that's the next thing we did, is we went from 15 to 18% and never looked back, really.
Wow. Okay. So what I'm hearing is, the first thing you did was, okay, guys, we're going to put, you know, nail our mast in the sand. We're going exclusive. Yes, it does mean we're going to say no to roles initially. And here's how we're going to do it, though. We're going to show the client that we're that surgeon, not that GP. We're going to take them on that journey. We're going to give them all the benefits, like why is that important for them, and why is that the best process for them? So very much making it about them rather than, you know, we only work in this way. It's Mr. Client, how does this value you? What's what's the reason why? And then when you did that, and you had to be consistent, I hear what you're saying. So it might be you've got to say no to some people. You know, but in the long run, it is going to work out when you stick with that strategy. And what you're talking about here is also that consistency of really sticking to something.
It's true.
Then go on, add something.
I was just thinking, in terms of selling the quality of your service, you've got contingent recruitment, which sometimes people sort of downgrade in terms of the skills needed to actually deliver good contingent recruitment. And then there's this mythical retained search, which obviously we now have a search division. But going exclusive only is as close to search as you can in a contingent model. And actually then you say, well, this is the best you can get, because we will deliver and we'll do it in this time. But no, we won't take you going out to lots of people. You either want to work with us or you don't. And I think that in the end, if it's put across in the right way, with a lot of knowledge about what your sector or about your niche, it'll come across really well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you know, difference, isn't it, between courting, let's say, and then when you decide you're going to get
Yeah.
married. It's like, commit
What the
to me,
question?
you know. Commit to me. Tell me you're all in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. But I like the fact that you started, and this is what other people listening could do, is to start with that 2 weeks exclusivity.
Yeah.
And also it builds up the confidence in you and your team, doesn't it? It builds up the
Yeah.
belief of that confidence that we can do this. So now why wouldn't we ask for the next stage, which is, you know, be exclusive with me? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Let's talk about the fees then. Let's
Yeah.
move on to that now. So you said that used to be 15. Is that right?
Yeah, sometimes lower,
Yeah.
must be honest. Just, you know, you want the business, you're in the mindset that it's the two of you. It is about providing for your family, providing for yourself, and any money's better than no money, right? And
Right.
I understand that. And there'll be people listening to this and they'll be thinking, well, it's, you know, easy for you to say. I get it, right? I've got kids, I've got bills, I've got, you know, overheads. So any revenue got to us to where we were, but in the end, you have to elevate the service that you're given, and that comes at a cost, and that cost is where you set where it is. And if you're getting results for people, they will pay it, because it is a very, very, you know, good service. You're finding the best people for them. And Daniel and I can walk in some of these organizations now, and 80–90% of the people that work there we placed, and we walk in there like the godfathers, you know, hey, because we know everyone.
Hey.
And that's incredible, right? And they wouldn't be where they were if we hadn't have found those individuals and put a lot of care and effort. And now it's the team doing it. I don't really do day-to-day recruitment anymore. I do the sales, which is what I enjoy. And we'll probably get onto that as how you build a team and put people when they're in flow, when people are doing what they love doing, you'll get better results as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So you made that decision again. It was a little bit like the exclusivity.
Yeah, it was the next step.
Put that flag in the sand and say, we're going to do this and we're committed to this. So I'm hearing commitment as a big word in this. We're committing to it, and we know our value.
Yeah.
And let's just remind ourselves of our value. Let's look at the results. Yeah.
And you can't go too high. You know, if we were probably working, and we have financial services membership clients who are 20% because, you know, they can afford it. We are working with predominantly not-for-profit organizations who 18 to them is a lot, but when they see that it works, they're prepared to pay it. Anyone that's working in a different sector could probably go higher than 18. And I would advise, if you're exclusive, the next step is, if you've delivered 2 or 3 for them, then the price should go up, because, you know, they're coming to you for a short amount of time and they're getting a result. So that is actually an economy for them too.
Yeah. So if I'm right, then Dennis, it's taking those clients on that journey with you and demonstrating the value that is being delivered. Because you're right, a client can get hung up on the fee or the percentage of that fee and see that as the cost of recruitment, when actually the cost of recruitment is about the individual, the value of that person in their business. And what they're not getting or are getting, either they're not getting and what it's costing them if they're not there, or they're not up to speed in terms of productivity, or, you know, the value of that individual when they get that recruitment right and they've got the right person there that is staying for, you know, has a good retention period and is delivering the right results and the right metrics against that role. And actually, what's the value of that? Because when you put that figure next to, you know, 18%, 20%, you're still saving the money.
Yeah, and when you're working with an agency that just wants to chuck CVs at a job and hope one of them stick, and there are some high street agencies, in fact, where I started my career, you know, that is how I was taught to do it. Just get as many people, as long as they're near enough, let's throw them at it, and we'll beat the other agencies in speed. We won't necessarily think, or, you know, because we don't have the luxury of the exclusive period. But you're better sending 5 that are absolutely nailed on than sending 15 that are kind of there or thereabouts. And you start to learn what a client wants. You also start to become a deep knowledge expert in what you're doing, and take pride in that, and really get to grips with what works. And then, you know, just be confident. If you can do it and you love doing it and you take real care, and you'll know if you're taking care, you'll get incredible results, and things will grow from there. And then you can start working with people who will have the same care, and then, you know, it's like a runaway train. Once you hit that right formula, just search out for that, and then move forward. Be confident.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we were talking earlier, and you also mentioned it. So this seems like a good time to
Mm.
start talking about how you then built that team and how you then use those processes or that systemization of what you knew
Yes.
worked. You know, you knew you could replicate that service offering that you guys were delivering
Yeah.
yourselves. So
I
how do
mean,
we replicate that and add people in?
how do you do that? I mean, first of all, we got it spectacularly wrong. we both had young families, and Daniel's younger than me, so his kids were smaller. So we decided to go back into an office because we were working remotely at that point. We just had a virtual office, and we decided we'd hire 2 graduates. We'd go back into the office together, and we would hire 2 mini-me's, so 1 mini Dan, 1 mini Dennis, and we would replicate ourselves, and hopefully in the future we'd be able to sort of step away a bit more and they'd take over. But that was, well, it was obvious after 2 weeks it was the wrong decision. One, because, you know, if you're hiring a mini-me, that's not the right thing to do because they're not going to complement you. If you think about what your stresses and strains were and why it didn't work for you having a boss, you're just going to hire somebody else who doesn't want a boss either. So it didn't work. We got rid of them after 3 weeks, which sounds cutthroat, but it just didn't work. Then we're on the Rocket program, and we noticed, and Sally, who we were working with, she mentioned about Working Mums, workingmums.co.uk, which is an amazing website. And most of our staff work remotely. They work on a flexible basis, regular patterns, but we allow them to pick how they want to work. And they're all working mums, and they are just an incredible team. Such resilient, emotionally intelligent, caring, brilliant people. And we've gone for a model where Danny and I do the sales because that's what we enjoy doing, and they do the delivery. So where the beauty of that is we don't have to hire 360-degree deliverers and salespeople. We've just got people from Goldman Sachs, UBS Bank, really top level delivery people who get overlooked because they want to work part-time. You know, God forbid they want to do a school run. Oh, you know, don't hire them. So they love the fact they've got a job. They also love the fact that membership is a lot for them to learn. Nice people, you know, decent jobs, very varied. And so we've now built the business where each department now has a specialist. So the marketing department has a marketing delivery specialist, the finance has finance, and so on and so on. And we've got 8 different divisions which we're putting specialists in. We hired somebody to run the temp division because Dan and I tried to do it but didn't have a clue how to quote for a temp. We had to admit we couldn't do it. So we brought someone in who has targets but can equity share if she gets it to a certain level, which we thought was only fair. And then probably the best decision was a dedicated marketing specialist, somebody to get the leads in that we then go and close. So a brand that we're really proud of now, because the old logo was Dan and I on the back of the fact packet and rubbish color schemes and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And somebody to come in and say, well, you know, I love what you guys are doing, but this looks rubbish. You know, really, this is poor. You know, why don't we do it like this? New website, you know, rebrand. And then suddenly those larger clients that weren't giving you time, they look at it and they look at your offering, and it's all, you know, it looks proper, and then they start to listen, and that's where you start to get really, you know, successful, because you're punching above your weight. You know, you look bigger than you are, and that's what we want. We want to look like an enterprise player before we were, if that makes sense.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, so the starting point in that, because I love it. It's, you know, you've had such a rapid transformation period.
Yeah.
For those listening and where their starting point might be, this is about, you're right, it's about hiring the right type of person. And it also plays a part in that model because, I mean, you've seen the difference. You know, probably, you know, like me, Dennis, we both came from a 360 background. And when somebody first suggests, 360, you know, why don't you could move away from that. You need to have a look at another model that's going to get greater productivity and greater results. And, you know, it's like we've been ingrained, haven't we? We've been programmed in this way of 360. And both you and I were probably very good 360 recruiters.
We were. But then let's face it, the reason why we ended up with our own companies is because we outgrew where we were. We didn't need the 20% commission. We could see that actually, give me a phone book, a laptop and a mobile phone, and I can replicate this myself. So then if you're hiring people that are mini-me's, they're going to do that to you. And so they should. But if you just give them a part of the process and they don't want to do the sales, and they never have to, because a lot of people hate sales, which is what I love. That's what makes me tick. And I enjoy that bit. What I don't enjoy is someone phoning me up on Monday morning, I'm not coming to my interview because my hamster died. You know, that gets under my skin. But if someone tells me, you know, get lost, I'm not interested, I can handle that. It's when I build up a relationship with a candidate and they let me down last minute. I don't like that bit. So we hired people who can deal with those relationships, enjoy that, are good at it. And then the sales and the sort of the business development and the client acquisition is done by people that actually really enjoy that too. And if people are really enjoying what they're doing and they're best suited to it, because you'll find the best salespeople are terrible at the process.
Right.
You know, they don't get the right to work information. They don't fill in the CRM system. They don't, you know, it's terrible. But yet they'll bring you business, and so you need to get it right matched. And that's what we learned when Sally first told us about, look, why don't you do this different? And we did the course. We thought, really, come on.
Yeah.
And then we looked into it, and then Sally was like, no, just do it, and I'll prove to you. And then we were like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, this works. This works.
Really does. The only way to do it.
And the great thing about this, and you did your model, what we call Thor. So you're absolutely right. You and Daniel are in your flow zone. You're working in your area of strength. And then you've got other people in those areas that either you don't enjoy or you find are not necessarily your areas of strength. Yeah. And what we could, for those people listening that might say, well, I'm not actually the best salesperson, but I'm good at the part that, you know, Dennis is saying he doesn't like. Yeah. The great thing about this model, we call them the ultimate models, is that there's more than one way for you to work that model. So 100%. All we're talking about doing is separating out the functions of recruitment, if you think about that 360, and then we're putting people in their areas of flow. And when Dennis is talking about that, your area of flow, you'll know it because it's the part you love, you thrive on, you're generally brilliant at it. You know, it'll be where your strengths are. And you notice that, you know, it almost gives you energy. Whereas the things that you're not so good at, you feel like you put the ball on, you put it off. Okay, yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. You tend to prioritize it. If
you get your marketing right, and a lot of people, it's the sales bit they don't like, is because they're thinking of cold calling. If you have qualified leads from decent marketing, which is targeted, which talks to people about solutions, and it talks to them about, we understand what your issues are and I can solve that. The following Zoom call isn't what you think is sales. It's fact finding and then telling someone, but I have the solution for that because I get it. That's not sales. And that won't make you feel like you're selling. That's consulting, and that's different. And that's hugely rewarding because then you realize, oh my God, I really know what I'm talking about here. And then you can solve that problem and you enjoy it. And there's people sell when they're not seeming desperate. I don't know if you've ever bought something when somebody feels like they're really pushing it on you. You naturally, you're not sure about this. But when someone's like, well, this is what it will do, this, and this, sort of, you know, take it or leave it, but in a nice way.
100%. It's, you know, I mean, I know it's sort of cliche wording, but it is serving, not selling. It's not having an attachment, because you can't sell something to somebody. You know, if somebody needs something, then find out if they need it. If they don't need it, don't find out. Don't force it on them. Just exactly.
Those questions will do the selling. The more you find out, the more they think, well, actually, this guy, okay. He knows what he's talking about. He cares, right? Yeah. You don't have to tell them about you, and just ask them, what do you need? And then it's like, well, okay, I get that. And this is how we'll solve it. This is how I could help.
Absolutely. And then the choice is theirs. Yeah. Okay, amazing. So we've talked about, what we haven't talked about, and this is a big one. Let's just talk about the 10th division that has been grown organically from your perm. Talk to us about that.
So what we didn't want to do is borrow money, right? It wasn't the situation we wanted to be in. So we looked at the Sonovates of this world and the invoice discounting. And I think we actually did it for 1 week, and we just saw that we weren't ever sure what was ours and what wasn't, and it was just too complicated. So we started slow, started with the day raters, made sure that we were just building it and keeping that pot of money and ring fencing it. We opened a bank account that was just purely for that. And so you weren't doing complex financial things. You just had a pot of money. and it just starts to grow. Credit control becomes important. People have to pay when they've said they're going to pay. And if you manage to keep on top of that, and we are quite lucky, we're in a sector where people do tend to pay quite well. But I think as long as you build those relationships and you can phone someone up and say, well, you're a bit late, can you pay? You can build that organically. And that's where you will start to see your business becoming more and more profitable, because it's a good area to be in if you can do it right. But you have to outlay quite a lot of money to then get the wages back. But I would advise a multi thing, and it's a challenge. If you're not doing it yet, then it's something that might give you that hunger back again, because you're learning something new and you're building something, and it's hugely rewarding having that, and knowing that you're going into a month with a certain amount of revenue that you can already sort of count on, which is, if you're a perm recruiter like me, you're always starting from zero. Dan and I always laugh and saying we're back at the base of Everest, but our temp division gets us halfway up now, which is really helpful.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more with you. And I mean, I came down applied the same route as you. So all of my 12 divisions organically grew the interim off the back of that. And always, because we were so strong in perm when we first started, it was like, okay, we're going to sell off the back of perm. And here's the thing for people listening, why, it is a lot easier than you might think. And don't worry about, I don't understand temp. It's not really that complicated. If you understand perm, you can understand temp. It's fact. It's just a margin or a markup. It's just slightly different.
A membership of the REC will give you all, and it's not expensive. And obviously I'm in membership, so I would evangelize about being a member of something, and we're proudly members of the REC, but they'll give you all the contracts, everything. You just change it to your own needs if that's what you want to do. We started off with that, and then we got our own ones in the end, but there's a lot there. You can just do.
Definitely, I would agree. There's lots of places that can help you out on that sort of side, contractual side. I mean, yeah, exactly that. And so what you're offering there is the client is, look, while we go and find the perm person for you, here's what we do, and you make it part of your service. What we're going to do is we're going to put somebody in there straight away for you. It's already costing you X. We can put a temp in tomorrow. That person will be, managing that process for you, or managing that area, so you're not losing any more money and you're not hemorrhaging anymore. And then at the same time, we're going to find this perm person. So you can literally do it as an offering, and
the business is there already.
It is, because you got perm jobs
for every placement instead of one, and it just makes sense.
And then you get the benefit of both. You've got temp, and then you've got perm on top. Okay, so brilliant. So, and Dennis, tell us, how has this transformed your personal life as well? Your own life.
I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes because I'd put on too much weight. I was eating the wrong food. I was probably drinking too much, and it was all getting on top of me, to be honest, Katie. It was too much. I've now lost just over 2 stone. I'm well on the way to reversing that medical condition. I go on 3 holidays a year. Well, I have done for the 2 years. My kids, I see them. And, it just transformed it, because I don't have to work in the same way. So it's weird. I've got all the staff now, but I work less because I do more of the thinking, which is still working, but it's not the drudgery, and it's not the Monday morning. Oh God, I've got to find it in me to do this. It's different now. And I would advise anyone, I don't say grow just for the sake of it, but really, really think about doing what you enjoy and finding other people to do the bits that you find tough, because that's sensible, and it will change it for you. Really will, I promise.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you, Dennis. Any parting for those people listening, whether they're joining us live? I can see we've got some people with us live, which is amazing. For those people that are live, or anybody watching this on playback, what would be your passing advice to anybody who might be in the same position that you were back then?
I would say, and a couple of things. I would say niche. If you're not niche, then try and narrow in on a niche, either a sector or be a department, and be the best at that. Don't be everything to everyone to begin with. Just be the best at one thing. I would go exclusive, 100%. And I would be open about what the end game is. If you've got a business partner or with somebody that you work with, think about what you're working towards, and then work back from there, because then what you're, it's not this kind of, impossible thing to attain. You can actually bite-sized chunk it back to where you want, and then step by step, then every little victory is taking you closer to that end goal, and then it just seems more and more achievable. And enjoy it again. You know, it doesn't have to be hard. You made a decision to be self-employed or to run a business for you and get back in control of it. And that's actually what's weirdly is hand over control to other people. And that sounds totally counterintuitive, but it isn't, and it does work. And I'd just like to say thank you to Katie, and especially to Sally and Nikki, because they did transform our business. And I'm not just saying that, I wanted to come on here because I really wanted to say that, because it's been highly influential in our lives. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Well, thank you guys. And, as I said to you earlier, when you got JFDI ninjas, ultimately you've talked about commitment the whole way through our conversation. You've really leveled that out, that look, if you want to do something in your life, put that commitment in there, but back yourselves. Back yourself and just take the action, because that's what you did, even though you might not have trusted or thought, you might have had questions in your mind about how that was going to work out. But you put the trust in, us, you put the trust in Sally, you followed it through. And then what do you know? The results come. And we have our saying, version 1 is better than version none. But, you have to start somewhere. But if you don't start at all, you're going to stay where you are.
You'll say that, and the things that are getting on top of you now will only compound. They're just going to continue. And just enjoy it again. And the way to enjoy it is to start winning again. And I know that sounds easy to say, but actually narrowing down on what you do best in terms of your offering, and then doing that to the best, you can actually build a business around that, instead of trying to do things that were outside because it was just revenue. As turn away business and pick up the business that's best for you, and then you'll feel more of it, you'll feel better, and then it'll start from there.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much, Dennis, and thank you so much for coming on today. So I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I had. If you want the same shifts in your business, as Dennis said, look, we would simple tactics, growing your business with less stress and financial freedom, then please, feel free to reach out to us. We are always here to have a conversation with you and to support you. And I hope you take one thing away from this call today. Dennis has dropped so many gems for you, but take one thing and just make that your starting point. And just get going and believe in yourself. So, Dennis, thank you so much again.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Thanks.
Brilliant. And thanks for joining us today on this session. I will be back with you again with another live session in the next week or so. So I will see you again. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.